Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to All Things Division 3 Soccer with Simple Coach and Jackie. I am Simple Coach, and you guessed it. That there is Jackie, still kicking. She's still a chief dog officer, refuses to retire and enjoy the good life, but she's still kicking, so, or at least she's sleeping, so. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Around D3. I wanted to do something to sort of kick off the season, and I thought this would be a good place to start. We're 2 weeks away from the first game of the season, and you could follow it on Exeter and Instagram. You're seeing all these programs, start their season. Players showing up on campus. You're seeing a lot of, I think is really cool. Midnight soccer for some teams. Coach Bergen already has Marietta going. So, and there's a few others out there that have done the same midnight soccer. So it's pretty exciting time. And, quite frankly, for me, it's almost a breath of fresh air, I dove in just a little bit into MLS and US soccer and the Euros and all the craziness that is professional soccer. And so I'm looking forward to less noise and more soccer. You know what? So with that, let me run through some of the topics that have crossed my desk that I find pretty interesting. A couple of these are beyond soccer. So keep that in mind. It's news nonetheless, I think, it's pretty interesting, and some of the things I'm seeing, and hopefully that will have positive impacts. I don't know. One of them, I'm not sure what impact it's going to have. But let me start with some platform updates. Right, All Things Division 3 Soccer. As you know, I have this YouTube channel, also post to Patreon and Goals TV. The website, d3soccer.fans. Have a Patreon page. By the way, Patreon members, thank you. You guys rock. But there's some things that are happening, especially now between now and the start of the season, that I just wanted to give you some updates. So the first one, and this might be a bit premature because we talked about it, but we haven't solidified it. I track a number of polls. Well, I don't track them, but there's a number of polls that you could access through d3soccer.fans. The first being the Simple Coach top, the top 25. So I do both the men's and women's, and there's two of them there that are the preseason picks. I tried to be a little bit more thoughtful about it, but I also have links to Massey's rankings. Also have links to the NCAA's. But I'm hoping that this year we're going to host a fan poll that is sort of coordinated through the D3 boards. They still need to work out some details, but at least I want to present it out or have people see it, because those are pretty interesting. Those are, last year I think there was like 15 people who contributed. Fans, not coaches, nothing, that are just sort of into the game, different parts of the country. And I thought it provides a pretty great collective ranking of the top 25 men's programs. It's not on the women's side, it's strictly on the men's side. So there's that. Another thing we're going to be doing also that gets highlighted or is on the D3 boards is we're going to focus in on a weekly pool. So select 10 games, best scores, you get ranked. And I love this. Again, I love this. I just love the different contributions from people, and makes for some fun. So we're going to be highlighting that on d3soccer.fans. So there's some detail that we need to work out. How are we going to do it? How are we going to present it? How I'm going to be able to show it and highlight it on the main page. But got that to look forward to. And then the last one, and I've been mentioning it quite a bit because there's a lot of work that's been going on. Not me. Um, um, some work's been done by somebody. I'll reference them later. That we're going to be able to track. You're going to be able to find all of the games in Division III with their stats and video links, and just trying to figure out how that's going to all present itself. But that's coming as well. So, I'm just hoping at a minimum, right, for a D3 soccer fan, you're going to be able to go to the website and you're going to be able to see some of the, I'll just say, some of the fan-driven activity that people are really tuned into. There's a bigger audience for it than you realize, and I just think it'll make for some interesting discussions. May open up, with the weekly pool. We talked about doing a weekly show where we go through the 10 games. We talk about who's leading and all those stuff. So there's some new things that'll come out of that. So more to come here. Like I said, we're coming in for a landing here in the next 2 weeks on a bunch of this stuff. So it's going to be interesting. This next bit I just have to highlight because I think it's awesome. This is the sort of thing that gets me giddy. And I'll talk about it. And I just want to talk about Calvin University. So I've been saying for a while that I think soccer is at a point, and you see it in a lot of different schools, where, I think it deserves some focus by athletic departments in terms of facilities and all that kind of thing, and upgrading and raising the profile. And to me, it's a sign of how important or how serious a school is with about the program. And I'm not saying that if they play in a football stadium that they're not serious about the program. I get that. Like, there's issues that every school faces: land, how you're going to get it, and obviously financials. But when I see it happening, I think it's pretty cool. So Calvin University is finishing up its new soccer stadium, which looks like the bomb. It includes everything like lockers and a new turf field, stands. Like, it's incredible. And it gets me giddy about the game. This sort of thing, just like, again, when you come from the 80s, when you're playing on dirt patches that are muddy, right? Like, it's a big deal. So I think this is a huge feather in their cap. And to boot, on the Simple Coach preseason top 25, I have the women ranked 14th in the country and the men 16th in the country. And the stadium has nothing to do with it. They're very talented. Next up, just saw this. So, and I think there's more. I could probably mention more, but in 2024, there are a couple newly active Division III schools. Asbury University, formerly of the NAIA. The Wilmore, Kentucky school will be a full member, participating in the Collegiate Conference of the South, along with the likes of Maryville, Berea, Belhaven, and Covenant. And I would say, speaking of fields, if you look at their field, it is beautiful as well. I'm just stunning. Second school to become a fully active Division III school is Warren Wilson College in Asheville, North Carolina. The former United States Collegiate Athletic Association school participates in the Coast to Coast Conference along with Christopher Newport, Mary Washington, the Banana Slugs of UC Santa Cruz, Mount Mary in Wisconsin, and Salisbury. So, be interesting to see. There's some other schools. University of Hartford, I referenced them. I think they're have an incredible women's team. Great facilities as well. If you've ever get a chance to see, I think I did a Fields of Dreams. It's pretty cool. They are in their second year, so I think, or in their third year. So next year they should be fully active and be able to participate in the tournament and whatnot. So. Okay, so this one's unavoidable, I think. This next bit, just talking about the NCAA. There's a lot of news, right? Like the former player lawsuits, discussions around NIL. Should players be considered employees? It's funny because I think the success of Division One, I'll say the Power Five, just sort of opened a can of worms, right? And as a result, there's a lot of tumult going on in the NCAA, obviously, which at some point is going to require federal action, like all sorts of things. And it's kind of noisy because, right, it doesn't necessarily impact Division Three right now. I think over time it has a material impact on Division Three athletics, especially stuff around NIL. But again, I think the NCAA in general is in a reactionary mode, just trying to deal with these things. So, but the reality is that is Division Three and Division One the same? No, they are not. They're totally two different models. And from my standpoint, I've kept waiting or looking for Division Three to affirm, I guess I would say, what it is to play at that level, what it means to be a student athlete, what it means to be committed to education and getting a degree and all these different things that make Division Three, I'll just say, unique, or one of the great talking points about Division Three. And so I've been waiting for something, and it might be a small thing, but I think that just recently, a couple weeks ago, the Division Three presidents took a step towards staying true to the mission of Division Three institutions. Again, right, the heavy emphasis on academics. And so I'm taking this from the NCAA release, which I'll link somewhere, or you could see it. The Division III President's Council took emergency legislative action to immediately change the requirement that transferring student athletes would have to serve an academic year of residence before being eligible to compete. The proposal clarifies that a student athlete who transfers, so kids going from one school to another, doesn't matter division, but one school to another, while academically ineligible at their school of origin or their school that they're going to, would not be immediately eligible for competition, but could regain eligibility after the first term at the new Division III school based on the school's academic standards for all student athletes. So in other words, if you don't have the grades to the school that you're going to, you are not playing. Right? As simple, I think it's simple, but I think it's a very strong statement by the Division III presidents where they want to stay aligned, right? So I know we get deep into the athletics, but I think it's important to remember. And this surprised me, like soccer's not the end all be all and at Division III, it's not the end all be all. It is a great activity to do, and I take it as seriously as I do the professional game, but we are educating men and women is the primary mission of Division III, and I think this is just a part and parcel to that. I do think, and then lastly, the last thing I'll say is that I do think you might start seeing the Division III presidents, Division III Management Council continue to tweak where they can to maintain the unique position of athletics and education in Division III. I think time has come. Again, it could just be to affirm both, right? So I expect to see more. Now, this next one, I wasn't sure whether I was going to bring up, but I thought about it and I was like, well, I sort of indirectly got involved, whether I realized it or not. And I'm going to say right off the bat, I don't have any particular new insight or I don't have any inside information. And I generally try to keep my focus on soccer and not talk about the other things as it relates to Division III soccer, right? I do interview ADs, and I had the wonderful conversation with President Docking over at Adrian, but it's not my thing, and part of it, I'm not a journalist, and I don't call up and ask for insight into what's going on. But back in May, I had the opportunity to interview the Goucher College athletic director, Andrew Wu. Found him knowledgeable, very engaged, really positive about the direction of athletics, really proud of the accomplishments that the athletic department was able to achieve, right? Graduation rates we talked about, and you can see the link somewhere. And I thought, wow, this is a guy who's got it going. And Goucher, to be honest, wasn't really, it's not a top-ranked, soccer-wise, not top-ranked, right? Like they compete in the landmark, some up, some down, and middle of the pack. And so I thought, oh, this is a guy who directionally, this is where he wants to take the athletic department. And having been there, Fields of Dreams, just a really great facilities. So it was a surprise to me when they announced that he had taken this interim athletic director job at Maryville College in Tennessee. And I think I would have just left it at that. Again, it's not my purview, but through the boards, I found something on Exeter that I thought was very interesting, and it caused me to ask what was going on at Goucher. And you could see it here. I posted it, and just a couple points to that were brought up, right? Like, and you can read it yourself. Wu, the athletic director, didn't choose to leave Goucher, though he did resign, and he didn't leave because Maryville opened. The president is behind this, not because things were going badly. The athletics department has been making smart moves and have hired some very good coaches in the last year. I mean, Mike Singleton, one of the best soccer coaches in the country, is now at Goucher. They have been turning a lot of programs in a positive direction. They have been, and this is really important, right? They've been bringing in more than their recruiting goals apparently for several years, and athletes have been 40% or more, have made up 40% or more of the overall enrollment for several years. That it's according to this gentleman, the last part points to the issues on the rest of campus bringing students to Goucher, right? So it just tells me how do you get kids interested in Goucher? I've also been told the Goucher board is fed up, or at least a number of them leading to several of them leaving the board. Supposedly there are some board members very angry that Wu was let go. Of course, the board hired this president, though I know there's been some turnover. No signs they let this guy go, but maybe I'll learn more. And this is the part where I was just kind of like, it was thrown back, and I was like, I gotta comment here. I'll be blunt. We are entering tough times, as we know. Again, the data is there. Tough times in higher education with steep drop in enrollment coming, less kids born since 2008. Goucher has shown signs of struggling financially, which is a surprise, including selling some of its artwork. And the supposed deal with the neighboring retirement community to lease land on Goucher's campus near the entrance for a new residential building. Decisions that could derail Goucher athletics, one of the few things seemingly working better on campus, could put the college under. And I'm not making this up. I've had people outside campus raise flags about Goucher financially, that these decisions give me great concern. There are a few things that struck me. First, it's not clear why a successful AD would be forced to move on if that was the case. By all measures. And in the conversation I had and seeing this and sort of anecdotally, the department has been making positive steps forward through recruiting and hiring. Like I said, hiring one of the best coaches in the country to head their women's program. Second, if it's not clear, not all is well in Division III, and so there's obviously some internal dissent over the decision. And third, this is the one where, again, this was one of those other catalysts where I was like, oh, I have to address this. I have to take a look at this. I always ask in my interviews about the commitment of the school to athletics, right? So how into athletics is the president or the administration? Because if you look at schools that are really committed to athletics, you see some really great things. And again, the easy one for me is take a look at Goucher College, right? Put an emphasis on athletics, facilities, recruiting, all of these components that lead to a great experience, student-athlete experience. And so it made me wonder if Goucher, seemingly successful AD, he resigns, is let go. It makes you wonder if Goucher is as committed to the direction that was outlined by athletic director Wu and has decided to change course. It does make you wonder. And then finally, the bigger concern, I think, for everybody, and I'll just end it with this, is Goucher one of the schools that's on the financial bubble? This in spite of the fact that back in April, they had received $55 million from an alum. So, I don't know. Another one to keep on the radar, along with Wittenberg and BW, and whether it's true or not, I don't know. And again, and what's interesting, I said earlier, I'm not a journalist. I actually emailed the president's office asking for a comment. It was kind of cool, but I was wholly ignored. So, hey, I decided I was gonna end on a good note, and so totally unrelated to anything, but I just wanted to give a shout out to the Cortland head men's coach for completing a 50K trail race this past weekend. When you've played at a high level, I think there's always, and I struggled with it for years, is finding a way to compete. And so I always relish when you see somebody who's like, I'm going to do something challenging. And so I just thought it was cool that he signed up for something that I think, just the little information I have is that he willed himself to do it. And he actually did it. I think that's remarkable. So shout out. Coach Axtell, awesome. Okay, so that about covers it. Those are just the things I'm looking forward to. I'm mostly looking forward to the games. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Around D3. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I had making it. Do me a favor if you can, just subscribe to the channel, hit the like, all that stuff, right? Feel free to comment. You can also email me. I try to respond to everything. So with that, I wish the best to all the teams that are getting on campus or just kicking off. I'm really looking forward to the magic that you produce on the field. It's going to be a fun season. So with that, thanks everybody. Jackie says thank you somewhere in there. And hope to see you guys again soon.